Okay, in this week's clip we're out on the hill. I just want to explain the kind of philosophy or rationale behind animal selection, beast selection if you like, for the next probably month or 6 weeks that we're working up there. We're involved with a large forest creation scheme, which essentially is fencing off a big block of fairly flat open hill on the edge of an existing conifer forest on the right, and that's going to be planted up. Part of the move by sort of governments all to do with carbon sequestration and climate change, etc. But a lot of grant money now is sort of encouraging landowners to plant trees. So essentially that's an area that we are now involved with on the estate. Work is just starting on the roads, and one of the things that the sort of application process before this thing goes ahead was an assessment of the deer numbers in that specific area. So we've got a pretty good idea of the numbers of deer on the estate, and essentially FLS have decided that because we're fencing off a large area and excluding deer from that area, then we need to do, or if you like, increase our cull to take account of what's called compensatory culling. So we're actually looking at, for example, you know, if there's 100 deer in one area and you're going to fence off a quarter of it, they kind of broadly speaking say, well, you need to increase your cull by 25, obviously to reduce the deer pressure on that area, and also from a deer welfare point of view. Now, because of that, ordinarily at the start of the season I'd be targeting kind of weak young calves and all the rest of it, and we will still shoot those, and I would probably leave a lot of the mature hinds alone. But in this instance, I'm actually selecting some mature hinds. So I'm actually wanting to take some of the mature hinds out, some of the breeding stock. So therefore, if a hind has got a big calf with a mature calf, then I will shoot ordinarily on a sort of general cull plan. I would have shot the calf, and then if I needed to shoot the hind here, now I'm going to start to concentrate on some of the mature hinds where possible. And as long as they've got a big calf with them, fully weaned now, on this area, they're not really going to struggle through the winter months because they've got access to shelter, they've got access to broadleaf woodland, they've got access to Mike's pheasant feeders, and they do hit them quite hard in the winter, and to a degree some crops. So I'm not worried that they're not going to survive the winter. Clearly smaller calves I will shoot. So we were out probably just sort of midday, late morning. We'd been out with some clients doing some level 2 training, and Graham had been doing some assessments for guys, but we got wrapped up nice and early. So we went back out, and I went to an area, again the area that I was speaking about earlier on, and there's a couple of little valleys in there that catch the sun in an afternoon, and normally deer will lie up in there during the day. So normally they're pretty much settled, which gives us a chance to make an approach on open ground, and the weather conditions to me would have had a lot of deer in there. As we went up to, if you like, get into the area that I wanted to stalk, all of a sudden a load of deer started running across in front of us, and quite a group of them went across, so clearly they'd been disturbed. It wasn't us, we were well back at that point. I suspect that again may have been walkers. Again, perfectly entitled to be there. There's some nice paths go around the centre of the estate, so probably enjoying the weather a bit like we were, which unfortunately moved the deer across. And once you've got a fairly biggish group of deer moving out of a valley like that, it tends to take everything with it. So I had to kind of rethink that plan and go into a different area. So we kind of did a bit of a loop then, worked into the wind, and we kind of came back onto the edge of basically we've got broadleaf woodland coming up the hill, and then kind of a bit of brackeny bank, then some rocky outcrop, and then it kind of plateaus up. And the wind was perfectly coming across into our face once I'd done a bit of a loop. So my plan was, just as we were getting kind of towards duskish at that point, probably an hour, hour and a half of light, we kind of worked back in across the top of this ridge line. I expected or suspected we'd get deer coming out of the trees to feed on the banking, and literally as we got to the edge of the bank, the dog started indicating. You should see that quite clearly on the clip. She's indicating strongly in front of us, so I go down a cog or two and ease slowly over the edge of the rise to kind of look down the banking. Very, very still, a little bit of kind of frost in the air, so there wasn't much wind to work with. And as we kind of got over the edge to look down, there were hinds already with some calves that were just on the edge of the tree line. They were aware of us. They didn't know what we were, but they were clearly aware that something was up. And they already started to kind of move across from the left down below us to the right. I thought we'd missed the chance actually. We weren't rushing, but they kind of, by the time we'd got set up, I was kind of on the sticks with a downhill kind of shot. There were actually a group of about 3 at the back kind of straggling along, which started to work through the trees. Now they stopped a little bit, but didn't initially have a clear shot because we were shooting through the willow, and then a hind nicely came clear. As the light was fading, I basically went down there with the dog to recover and deal with her. Graham went across to get the ATV, which was some distance away actually on the edge of the hill track. But as I got to the deer, there's a little mouse, there's a little blooming field mouse sat sheltering underneath it, which you'll see on camera, which then scurried off as I went down to start my gralloch. So I think we kind of call in this clip the mouse hind. The plan was that I would do the gralloch, drag down to the kind of bottom of the wood, and then Graham did a loop around and came and picked me up. So fortunately that was job done, quite successful.